He invited me to his wedding, the same man who once promised to marry me. I went there smiling, but what I revealed changed everything. The envelope arrived on a dull Tuesday afternoon, the kind of gray, suffocating day where even the sky looked like it had given up trying. I remember the exact sound it made when it slipped under my apartment door, a soft scrape against the wooden floor that somehow echoed louder than it should have. At first, I ignored it. Bills, advertisements, reminders of a life I was barely holding together. It could have been anything. But something about it felt different. Heavier. Intentional. Like it knew I was inside. Like it was waiting for me. I didn't move for a full minute, standing frozen in my kitchen, my fingers still wrapped around a mug of cold coffee I had forgotten to drink. Then, slowly I walked toward the door. Each step felt heavier than the last, like my body already knew what my mind hadn't caught up to yet. I bent down, picked up the envelope, and that's when my heart stopped. My name was written in handwriting I hadn't seen in months, but would recognize even in a crowded room, even after years, even if I tried to forget. Ethan. My chest tightened instantly, like something sharp had lodged itself between my ribs. For a second, I actually considered throwing it away without opening it, protecting myself, pretending I never saw it. But curiosity, or maybe something darker, won. My fingers trembled as I flipped it over and broke the seal. Inside was a pristine white card, elegant, expensive, cold. The kind of card people use when they want to prove something. And there it was. Ethan Carter and Olivia Hayes request the honor of your presence at their wedding. The rest blurred instantly. My vision tunneled, my breath caught somewhere between a laugh and a sob, and for a moment, I genuinely thought I might pass out. Not because he was getting married. No, deep down, I had always known that day would come. It wasn't even because he was marrying her. It was the way he had done it. The audacity, the cruelty wrapped in politeness, the calculated decision to invite me. That's what shattered something inside me. Memories hit me all at once, violently, like a storm breaking through glass. Ethan and I weren't just some casual fling. We were everything. Or at least, that's what he made me believe. 3 years of my life. 3 years of building something I thought was unbreakable. We met on a rainy night outside a bookstore. How cliché, right? But it felt like fate back then. He had held the door open for me, smiled that quiet, disarming smile, and said, "You look like someone who reads sad endings." And I laughed. God, I laughed. If only I knew. If only I understood that I was stepping into one. He was patient, attentive, the kind of man who remembered small details. My favorite coffee order. The way I hated loud restaurants. The fact that I always rewatched the same movie when I was stressed. He made me feel seen in a way no one ever had. And I trusted him. Completely. That was my first mistake. The betrayal didn't happen overnight. It never does. It started small, late replies, canceled plans, subtle distance that I tried to ignore because love makes you blind in the worst ways. I told myself he was busy, stressed, going through something he didn't know how to talk about. I gave him excuses he never even asked for. Until one night, everything cracked. I still remember the smell of that evening, rain mixing with asphalt, the faint scent of his cologne lingering in his apartment as I let myself in with the spare key he had given me. I wasn't supposed to be there. I had planned a surprise, something sweet, something simple. I thought maybe we could fix whatever was slipping away. But instead, I heard laughter. Not his, hers. Soft, intimate, comfortable laughter that didn't belong to a stranger. My stomach dropped instantly. Every instinct screamed at me to leave, to pretend I hadn't heard it, but my feet moved on their own. And then I saw them, Ethan and Olivia, sitting on the couch like they belonged there together. Like I was the outsider. Like I had walked into their life, not the other way around. The silence that followed when they noticed me was suffocating. Heavy. Guilty. And in that moment I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't break. I just stood there. Because something inside me had already shattered beyond repair. "It's not what it looks like," he said. Of course he did. They always do. I almost laughed. Not out of humor, but disbelief. "Then what is it?" I asked quietly, my voice so calm it scared even me. He hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. Olivia didn't even look ashamed. She looked annoyed, like I was an inconvenience. Like I was the one interrupting something important. That's when I understood. I wasn't losing him. I had already lost him. I just didn't know it yet. I left without another word. No closure. No explanation. Just silence. And for weeks, that silence consumed me. I stopped sleeping properly. Stopped eating. Stopped recognizing the person staring back at me in the mirror. He tried to reach out at first. Calls. Messages. Apologies that felt rehearsed. Empty, meaningless. I ignored all of them. Because what was there left to say? You don't accidentally betray someone. You choose it. Over and over again. And now, months later, this invitation. This cruel, polished reminder that not only had he moved on, he had won. Or at least, that's what he wanted me to believe. I sank into the nearest chair, the card still clutched tightly in my hand. My mind raced, my heart pounding louder with every second. Why would he send this to me? Guilt? No. Ethan wasn't the type to feel guilty for long. Pride? Maybe. Or something worse, something deliberate. A statement. A way of saying, look at me. Look what I chose over you. And that's when something shifted inside me. Slowly, quietly, dangerously. The sadness didn't disappear. It transformed into something sharper, colder, focused. Because for the first time since everything fell apart, I wasn't thinking about what I lost. I was thinking about what he took. My time, my trust, my sense of self. And suddenly, I didn't feel broken anymore. I felt awake. I looked back down at the invitation, my grip tightening as a slow, calculated thought began to form in my mind. If he wanted me to witness his happiness, then maybe, just maybe, I would. But not the way he expected. A faint smile touched my lips, one that didn't quite reach my eyes. Because Ethan had made one critical mistake. He thought I would stay the same girl he left behind. The girl who loved him. The girl who trusted him. The girl who broke quietly. But that girl was gone. And what replaced her was something he had never seen before. I picked up my phone, staring at the screen for a long moment before opening my contacts. There was a number I hadn't called in years. Someone who knew Ethan almost as well as I did, maybe even better. My finger hovered over the call button, hesitation flickering for just a second before disappearing completely. Then I pressed it. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times, and just as I was about to hang up, a voice answered. I was wondering when you'd finally call, he said. My breath hitched slightly, but I didn't back down. Because whatever came next this time, I wouldn't be the one losing. I need your help, I said quietly. A pause, then a low, knowing chuckle. With Ethan. I looked back at the wedding invitation lying on the table, its pristine white surface now feeling more like a challenge than a threat. My eyes hardened. No, I replied, with making him regret everything. And just like that, the game began. The line stayed silent for a moment after I said those words, but it wasn't the kind of silence that felt uncertain. It was the kind that carried recognition, like something inevitable had finally arrived. I knew you wouldn't stay quiet forever, he said, his voice calm, almost amused, like he had been waiting for this moment just as much as I had unknowingly been moving toward it. I closed my eyes briefly, steadying myself against the sudden rush of memories his voice dragged back with it. Daniel Reeves wasn't just anyone from Ethan's past. He was the part Ethan never talked about, the part he carefully buried under charm and carefully constructed perfection. If Ethan was light on the surface, Daniel was the shadow beneath it. You still in the city? I asked, keeping my tone controlled, refusing to let any hesitation slip through. Always, he replied. People like me don't leave, we just watch. That sent a chill down my spine, but I ignored it. I didn't call Daniel for comfort. I called him for truth. Meet me, I said. Tonight. There was no pause this time. Same place, he asked, and I didn't need to think twice. Same place. The cafe hadn't changed much over the years, which somehow made everything feel worse. The faint smell of roasted coffee beans, the dim yellow lights, the soft hum of conversations blending into background noise, it all felt painfully familiar, like stepping into a memory that had been waiting untouched. I arrived early, choosing a corner table where I could see the entrance. Old habit, or maybe instinct. My fingers tapped lightly against the cup in front of me, untouched, as my thoughts spiraled. What exactly was I doing? Revenge wasn't something I had ever imagined myself chasing. I wasn't that person. At least, I didn't think I was. But then again, I also never thought I'd be the girl standing in a room watching the man she loved choose someone else without a second thought. The door opened, and I didn't need to look up to know it was him. There's something about certain people. You feel their presence before you see them. "You look different," Daniel said as he slid into the seat across from me, his eyes scanning my face with quiet intensity. I met his gaze, unflinching. "So do you." It wasn't a lie. The last time I saw him, he looked reckless, sharp around the edges, like someone who didn't care what damage he caused as long as he stayed entertained. Now he looked controlled, calculated, more dangerous somehow. "You didn't call me to catch up," he said, leaning back slightly. "So let's skip the polite part. What did Ethan do this time?" I let out a slow breath, reaching into my bag and pulling out the wedding invitation, placing it on the table between us. His eyes dropped to it, and for a brief second, something flickered across his expression, something dark and knowing. Then he chuckled softly. "Of course he did," he muttered. "Classic Ethan." "You're not surprised," I said quietly. "No," Daniel replied, looking back up at me. "Because this isn't about love. It never is with him." My chest tightened slightly at that, but I stayed focused. "Then what is it about?" Daniel leaned forward, his voice lowering just enough to force me to listen carefully. "Control," he said. "Ethan doesn't just leave people. He replaces them in a way that makes sure they feel it, that they question themselves, that they wonder what they did wrong." His words hit harder than I expected, not because they were new, but because they confirmed everything I had tried to ignore. "And Olivia?" I asked. "What's her role in all this?" A faint smirk touched his lips, but there was no humor in it. "Olivia Hayes isn't just some random girl he fell for," he said. "She's strategic." That word lingered in the air longer than it should have. "What does that mean?" I pressed. Daniel tilted his head slightly, studying me like he was deciding how much to reveal. "It means," he said slowly, "you weren't the first." My stomach dropped. "Excuse me." He didn't look away. "There were others before you," he continued. "Different cities, different stories, same ending. Ethan gets bored, finds someone new, and then he rewrites the narrative, so he's never the bad guy." My grip tightened around the edge of the table. "And Olivia?" I repeated, my voice sharper this time. "She knows," Daniel said simply. The world seemed to tilt slightly at that. "No." I shook my head instinctively. "That doesn't make sense. Why would she?" "Because she benefits from it," he cut in. "You think she didn't know about you when she walked into his life? You think that night you found them was some accident?" My breath caught. "What are you saying?" Daniel held my gaze, his expression unreadable. "I'm saying," he said quietly, "you didn't just lose Ethan. You were replaced." The word echoed in my mind, heavier than anything else he had said. Replaced, like I was something disposable, something temporary, something that could be erased without consequence. For a moment, the anger I had been holding back surged violently, threatening to break through the calm exterior I had been clinging to. But I didn't let it. Not here. Not now. "Okay," I said finally, my voice steady despite everything. "Then help me understand something." Daniel raised an eyebrow slightly. "Why invite me to the wedding?" A slow smile spread across his face, but this one felt colder. "Because," he said, "Ethan doesn't just want to move on, he wants an audience." Silence settled between us again, but this time it wasn't empty. It was charged, heavy with realization. Everything suddenly made sense in a way that made my stomach turn. This wasn't closure. It wasn't politeness. It was a performance. And I was supposed to be part of it. "So what's your plan?" Daniel asked after a moment, breaking the silence. I looked down at the invitation again, my mind racing faster now, connecting pieces I hadn't even realized were there. "I go to the wedding," I said slowly. Daniel didn't react, but I could tell he was listening closely. "I let him think he's in control," I continued. "I let him believe that I've accepted everything, that I've moved on." "And then," Daniel prompted. I looked back up at him, my eyes sharper now, clearer. "Then I take that control away from him." A flicker of approval crossed his face. "Now that," he said, "sounds interesting." I leaned back slightly, my thoughts forming more clearly with every second. "But I can't do it alone," I admitted. I need something real. Something undeniable. Daniel's expression shifted slightly, becoming more serious. You're asking for proof, he said. Of who he really is. I nodded. Not just for me, I added. For everyone. He was quiet for a moment, tapping his fingers lightly against the table as he considered it. Then, finally, he spoke. Ethan has secrets, he said. More than you think. And not all of them are about relationships. That caught my attention instantly. What do you mean? Daniel hesitated briefly, then leaned in closer, lowering his voice again. Money, he said. Deals. People he's been involved with, things that don't exactly look good when exposed publicly. My pulse quickened. You're saying I'm saying, Daniel interrupted. If you're going to do this, you need to be ready for what comes with it. I didn't look away. I am. He studied me for a long moment, like he was trying to decide whether I was telling the truth or just convincing myself. Then he nodded once. All right, he said. If you want to make him regret it, we do it properly. Something about the way he said that sent a mix of excitement and unease through me. Because this wasn't just about emotions anymore. This was turning into something bigger. Something irreversible. Where do we start? I asked. Daniel leaned back, a faint, almost dangerous smile forming on his lips. We start, he said, with the truth he's been hiding. Outside, the rain had started again, tapping softly against the cafe windows like a warning I chose to ignore. Because for the first time since everything fell apart, I wasn't reacting anymore. I was planning. And somewhere, deep down, I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't just going to be a wedding. It was going to be a reckoning. And Ethan had no idea what was coming. The night after meeting Daniel, I couldn't sleep at all. My apartment felt different now, like the walls had quietly absorbed the weight of everything I had learned. Ethan wasn't just the man who broke my heart anymore. He was a puzzle with missing pieces, and every missing piece made him more dangerous. I kept replaying Daniel's words in my mind. Control, replacement, secrets. Each word opened something inside me I didn't know existed. I stood up around 3 a.m., walking barefoot to the kitchen, pouring myself a glass of water I didn't even drink. My reflection in the dark window looked unfamiliar. Tired eyes, tight expression, something hardened behind the gaze that didn't used to be there. I didn't recognize myself anymore, and strangely, I didn't hate it. By morning, Daniel had already sent a message. Meet me. Noon. Don't be late. No explanation. No details. Just direction. I followed it anyway. The second meeting wasn't at a cafe this time. It was at an underground parking structure near the edge of the city, a place that smelled of oil, dust, and forgotten things. The air was heavy, echoing with distant footsteps and the occasional hum of engines. I spotted Daniel leaning against a concrete pillar, his arms crossed, looking like he had been there for hours. You're early, I said. You're changing, he replied instead, watching me closely. That's good. He didn't waste time. He handed me a folder. Thick, heavy, real. What is this? I asked, already feeling my pulse shift. Ethan's first crack, he said simply. Inside were documents, bank transfers, offshore accounts, names I didn't recognize, transactions that didn't belong to a normal life. My hands tightened around the pages as I scanned faster. This is illegal, I whispered. Borderline, Daniel corrected, but enough to ruin him if exposed properly. I looked up at him. Where did you get this? A faint smile touched his lips. Let's just say, Ethan isn't the only one who knows how to collect secrets. My mind struggled to process it. This wasn't just emotional betrayal anymore. This was something bigger, deeper, more calculated than I had imagined. Why keep all this hidden? I asked. Because people like Ethan don't survive by being honest, Daniel said. They survive by controlling the story. A long silence stretched between us. I could feel something shifting inside me again, not fear this time, but clarity. So what now? I asked. Daniel stepped closer, lowering his voice. Now we test him. That evening, I did something I never thought I would do. I created a fake account. Clean. Anonymous, carefully built. No trace back to me. Then I sent a single message, to Olivia. You don't know me, but I know Ethan better than you think. I stared at the screen for a long time after hitting send, my heart steady but my thoughts loud. This wasn't impulsive anymore. This was controlled. And for the first time, I didn't feel like the one being played. Minutes passed, then hours. I was about to put my phone away when it vibrated. A reply. "Who are you?" And just like that, the first crack in Ethan's perfect world began to form. Her reply came faster than I expected, as if Olivia had been waiting for something like this all along. The words, "Who are you?" glowed on my screen in the dark of my room, and for a moment I didn't move at all. I just stared at them, feeling the weight of what I had started. Outside, the city was quiet, but inside me everything was loud. My thoughts weren't scattered anymore. They were focused, sharp, almost disturbingly calm. I typed back slowly, carefully choosing every word. Someone who knows what Ethan doesn't want you to know. I didn't send anything else. I didn't need to. The silence that followed felt different this time. Not empty, but alive. Like something on the other side of that screen had just woken up. I placed the phone face down and leaned back, exhaling for the first time in what felt like hours. Somewhere deep down, I knew I had crossed a line I could never uncross. And strangely, I wasn't afraid of it. The next morning, Daniel was already waiting again. Same place, same underground parking structure. But his expression was different this time. More serious, more alert. She replied. I said before he could even ask. He nodded once. Good. That means she's curious. Or cautious, I added. Same thing, he replied. Curiosity always wins eventually. He handed me another file, thinner this time but heavier in meaning. This is not just about money anymore, he said. This is about connections. I opened it, and what I saw made my stomach tighten. Names, meetings, private locations, and one thing that stood out more than anything else, Olivia's name appearing in places it shouldn't. She's involved, I whispered. Daniel didn't answer immediately. That silence told me everything. How involved? I asked. Enough to not be innocent, he said finally, but not enough to be the mastermind. My mind tried to make sense of it. Olivia wasn't just a replacement, she was part of something structured, something built around Ethan. So what is she? I asked. Daniel exhaled slowly. A participant, he said, or a pawn. Depends on how you look at it. That word stayed with me longer than I wanted it to. Pawn. Because suddenly Olivia wasn't just an enemy anymore. She was something else, something trapped in the same system I was trying to destroy. That night, I received another message. We need to talk. Olivia. No greeting. No hesitation. Just urgency. My fingers hovered over the screen. Daniel's warning echoed in my mind. Don't let her control the pace. But this wasn't about control anymore. It was about answers. I replied once. Tomorrow. 6 p.m. Riverside Cafe. The next evening felt heavier than usual. The cafe by the river was quieter than the one I met Daniel in, glass windows facing dark water, soft reflections of city lights trembling on the surface. The air smelled faintly of rain and wet wood. I arrived early again, choosing a seat where I could see both the entrance and the river. My hand stayed still on the table this time. No shaking, no hesitation. When Olivia walked in, I understood something instantly. She wasn't what I expected. She didn't look confident or arrogant. She looked tired, controlled exhaustion hidden under careful makeup and perfect posture. But her eyes gave her away. They were restless, searching. She spotted me immediately. No confusion, no delay. She already knew. She sat down without waiting for permission. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Just silence between two women tied to the same man in completely different ways. Finally, she broke it. You contacted me first, she said. I nodded, because I needed you to respond. Her lips tightened slightly. If this is about Ethan. It is, I interrupted, but not the way you think. That made her pause. I leaned forward slightly. Do you trust him? A flicker crossed her face. So fast most people would miss it. But I didn't. That's not a simple question, she said carefully. It is, I replied. You just don't like the answer. Her fingers tightened around her cup. You don't know him. I almost smiled. Neither do you. That landed harder than anything else I could have said. Silence stretched again, but this time it was different. Less defensive. More uncertain. Finally, she spoke again, but softer this time. Why are you doing this? And that was the moment everything shifted. Because I realized something important. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about truth. And truth was more complicated than I had expected. I'm not trying to destroy him, I said quietly. I'm trying to understand what he really is. Olivia looked at me for a long time. The noise of the cafe faded around us, like the world itself was stepping back to watch. Then she said something I didn't expect. He's not what you think either. My pulse slowed. Explain, I said. But she shook her head. Not here. She stood up suddenly, grabbing her bag. If you want answers, meet me again. Alone. Then she left. Just like that. No resolution. No closure. Just another door opening where I thought I had reached the end. I stayed seated long after she was gone, watching the river outside. The water moved slowly, but beneath it I could feel something darker shifting. When I finally stood up, I checked my phone. A message from Daniel. She spoke to you, didn't she? I didn't reply immediately, because for the first time, I wasn't sure which side I was supposed to be on anymore. And somewhere deep inside me, I knew Ethan was no longer the only secret in the story. The wedding day arrived with a strange kind of silence, the kind that doesn't feel peaceful but predictive, like the world is holding its breath before something breaks. I stood in front of the mirror for a long time that morning, not because I didn't know what to wear, but because I didn't recognize the woman looking back at me. The softness that once defined me felt distant now, replaced with something steadier, colder, more deliberate. My dress was simple, elegant enough to blend in, but powerful enough to make me feel like I belonged in any room I walked into. Not as a guest, not as a memory, but as someone who had finally stopped running from her own story. Daniel texted once. Everything is in place. Olivia sent nothing. Ethan, of course, Ethan sent nothing either. The venue was exactly what I expected, grand, expensive, carefully designed to look effortless. White flowers lined the entrance. Soft music floated through the air, and guests moved around like they were part of a perfectly staged illusion. Everything smelled like luxury and control. Like Ethan. As I stepped inside, I felt it immediately, the shift in energy. People noticed me, even if they pretended not to. Whispers moved faster than footsteps. I ignored all of it and kept walking. Then I saw him. Ethan stood near the front, dressed in a tailored black suit, looking like a man who had never lost anything in his life. Confident, calm, controlled. But I knew him better than that now. I knew the cracks underneath. And then I saw her. Olivia. She stood beside him in a white gown that looked almost too perfect, like she had been sculpted into the role rather than chosen for it. But her hands were slightly tense. Not relaxed. Not happy. Controlled. And that's when I understood. This wasn't love. This was performance. Ethan's eyes finally found mine. For a moment, everything stopped. Not the music. Not the guests. Not the ceremony. Just him and me. A slow smile formed on his face. Not warm. Not apologetic. Proud. Like he had been waiting for this exact moment. You came, he said softly as I approached. I was invited, I replied. A flicker of amusement crossed his eyes. And I looked at him for a long second. You really think this is your victory, don't you? He leaned slightly closer. It is. Behind him, Olivia shifted slightly. I caught her glance. It wasn't confusion anymore. It was understanding. She knew. The music started again, signaling the ceremony was about to continue, but no one moved. Because something in the air had changed. And then Daniel appeared. He didn't walk in dramatically. He didn't need to. He simply stepped into the space like he had always belonged there. A quiet disruption. Ethan's smile faded slightly. What is this? He asked. Daniel didn't look at him first. He looked at Olivia. You still haven't told her the truth, he said calmly. Olivia closed her eyes for a second. And that was enough. Ethan's expression shifted. Stop. But Daniel continued. Ethan didn't choose you, he said to Olivia. He selected you for stability. Damage control. A continuation of a pattern. Murmurs spread through the guests. Ethan stepped forward. You don't know what you're talking about. Daniel finally looked at him. I know everything. He raised a folder. Not mine. Not Olivia's. Ethan's. The accounts. The transfers. The false identities. The pattern of emotional manipulation, followed by financial concealment. The room went quiet. Ethan's face tightened. You're lying. But I saw it then. For the first time, he wasn't in control. Olivia turned slowly toward him. "Is it true?" she asked quietly. Ethan didn't answer immediately. That hesitation was enough. Her breath shook slightly. Was I part of something, or just another version of her? She looked at me, and in that moment, I didn't feel hatred. I felt clarity. "I wasn't your enemy," I said softly. "I was just the one who woke up first." Silence fell again. Then Ethan spoke, low, controlled, almost broken beneath the surface. "You think you've won something here?" I stepped forward. "No," I said. "I didn't come here to win." I placed the wedding invitation on the table in front of him, the same one that started everything. "I came here to end the illusion." A long pause. Then Daniel handed the final document to a waiting journalist standing near the back. Flash. Camera. Whispers turned into chaos. Ethan finally turned fully toward me, and for the first time, there was nothing confident left in his eyes. Just realization. Olivia slowly stepped back from him. Not anger. Not drama. Just distance. Because she understood now. This wasn't a love story gone wrong. It was a system. And she refused to be part of it anymore. Guests began leaving. Some confused. Some furious. Some silent. The perfect wedding collapsed without a single physical fight. Just truth. Ethan stood still in the middle of it all, watching everything he built dissolve in real time. And then he looked at me. "You destroyed me," he said quietly. I shook my head. "No," I replied. "You did that the moment you thought people were replaceable." I turned to leave. Daniel followed. Behind us, I heard nothing but silence replacing the celebration. Outside, the air felt different. Lighter. Real. Daniel glanced at me. "You good?" I looked back at the venue one last time. Not with anger. Not with sadness. But closure. "Yes," I said. Because revenge wasn't what I thought it would be. It wasn't loud. It wasn't chaotic. It was just truth finally being seen. And as we walked away, I realized something important. Ethan didn't lose me. He lost the illusion that made him untouchable. And that was worse than anything I could have ever done to him.